Europe on high alert. Belgium pushes for Russian assets to fund Ukraine, while Norway ramps up border defenses against Kremlin threats. Here's the latest, so you will be in focus. Subscribe and stay tuned. Belgium and the European Commission to hold a special meeting on use of frozen Russian central bank assets. This was reported by Politico. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky noted that Kyiv will make efforts to ensure the EU reaches a compromise on using frozen Russian assets for a loan by the end of this year. More details will follow from Kristina Dombrovska.
Europe is making a new attempt to break out of the political deadlock on providing Ukraine with a €140 billion loan as reparations, using frozen Russian assets, writes Politico. Representatives of the European Commission and the Belgian government plan to discuss this issue on November 7th.
Without a deal on using the Russian assets, the Commission is warning EU governments that they'll have to prop up Kyiv with their own wallets, from a publication by Politico.
According to Politico, in October at a meeting of EU leaders, Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever demanded stronger guarantees to protect his country from the financial and legal risks that could arise from transferring frozen Russian assets. However, the European Commission warned that time is running out and therefore initiated an emergency meeting.
The longer we now run delays, the more challenging it will become. It may open questions on some possible bridging solutions, Valdis Dombrovskis, European Commissioner for Economy and Productivity, in a comment to Politico.
Earlier, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen proposed using frozen Russian assets as collateral for providing Ukraine with reparations loans. She announced this while speaking at the 77th session of the Nordic Council in Stockholm, and assured that Europe is ready to cover Kyiv's financial and military needs for 2026 and 2027.
I think it is an important step forward that we look at the immobilized Russian assets, because what are we doing? We're looking at the cash balances. The proposal is to take these cash balances to give a loan to Ukraine that Ukraine has to pay back if Russia pays reparations. And therefore, it's legally a sound proposal, not trivial, but a sound proposal. Now the European Council asked for potential options to technical questions that we have there, so we will come with that. But the basic message is very clear towards Russia. We're in for the long haul. We are ready to cover the financing needs of Ukraine so that we are standing by Ukraine for as long as it takes.
As Reuters reported earlier, the European Union's reparations loan for Ukraine will be finalized after the International Monetary Fund assesses Kyiv's financing needs for 2026 and 2027. Currently, the majority of frozen Russian assets in Europe, about €210 billion, are held in the Belgian Central Securities Depository Euroclear.
Officials said €175 billion of the assets in Euroclear have now matured and become cash that could be the basis of the new loan, from a publication by Reuters.
Ukraine will not be left alone in confronting Russian aggression, stated President Volodymyr Zelensky while speaking with journalists on November 3. He believes that using frozen Russian assets for Ukraine's benefit is advantageous for Europe, and emphasized that Kyiv, for its part, will make efforts to ensure the European Union finds a compromise on the loan using frozen Russian assets by the end of 2025. The tool for their use can be different, noted the president of Ukraine.
Especially if the war does not end, Ukraine must be sure that it is not alone in going through such a difficult period, and that we have primarily finances, not just friendly words. And therefore Europe, understanding that Ukraine is the wall in this war, will support us. The only logical solution today is to take money from frozen assets or under frozen assets. This is already a tool on how to get this money and give Ukraine the opportunity to stand, fight, live.
Under the European Ukraine Facility Assistance Mechanism, Kyiv will receive the fifth tranche of more than €1.8 billion. The funds are intended to strengthen Ukraine's macro-financial stability and support the work of its public administration, reported the EU Council. This EU support mechanism for Ukraine is designed for the period from 2024 to 2027 and will allow the EU to provide Ukraine with up to €50 billion in stable and predictable financial assistance over this period, according to the European Commission website, reported by Kristina Dombrovska, UATV News.
Norway modernizes the border with Russia amid increased threats from the Kremlin. Oslo will use new observation towers. alternative sensors for detection and monitoring, as well as drones. The fortification of the borders will cost approximately 16.5 million euros. More details on how Europe is responding to threats from Russia will be provided by Larissa Petruk.
Unknown drones are once again flying over European capitals. In Belgium, near the Kleine Brogel Air Base, on the evening of Tuesday, November 4th, drones were spotted. According to local residents, there were 6 UAVs in the air. The federal police sent a helicopter to search for them, but the drones were not found. Air traffic at Brussels airport was suspended for 2 hours for safety reasons, after which flights resumed.
I'm Ukrainian and I'm very much concerned that now in the heart of Europe we can see drones flying out of nowhere, and we have no means to prevent that or to fight that back.
I stayed here in the airport until 2:30 a.m. We couldn't even pick up our luggage. We went to the hotel without suitcases. We have no cosmetics, no clothes except what we were wearing yesterday evening.
Belgium's National Security Council will convene an emergency meeting due to the drone incidents, stated the country's Minister of Internal Affairs and Security. On the morning of November 5th, Vilnius Airport also suspended operations due to the appearance of an unknown drone. For safety reasons, the administration delayed flights for just over half an hour. Previously, unknown drones were spotted over military facilities of other European countries: Germany, Norway, Sweden, France, Romania, Spain, and Denmark.
In Europe right now, not only hybrid attacks are happening, but a hybrid war. I think that we, of course, should focus on cyber attacks and the risk of sabotage, as well as countering drones, and therefore it's good that we held talks with the European Union about creating a kind of drone wall, which of course can be used, especially when it comes to hybrid war.
Europe is increasingly responding to Kremlin threats with preemptive measures, thereby strengthening its defense capability. One example is the project of the German concern Rheinmetall factory, which will be built in Lithuania by the second half of 2026. There, German and American 155mm ammunition will be produced.
For Lithuania, this state-of-the-art artillery ammunition production facility, the largest defense investment in the country's history, is not merely an industrial project. It is a strategic step aimed at building deterrence as a precondition of peace.
The war in Ukraine in particular highlights the importance of artillery ammunition. Despite the massive increase in the use of drones, 155mm ammunition remains a main consumable in a war of attrition and a bottleneck factor in Russia's war of aggression. Stepping up production capacities, especially of ammunition, is needed for our security and therefore essential for all NATO partners.
Russian hybrid attacks, among other things, are complicating business operations. Politico draws attention to this aspect. Hackers closely tied to the Kremlin have been attacking the EU's cyberspace for years, from shopping centers and airports to logistics companies, causing significant financial damage to businesses and insurance firms.
Over the past decades, state-linked Russian hackers have targeted all manner of European municipalities, government agencies, and businesses. There have been arson attacks, including one involving Poland's largest shopping mall that Prime Minister Donald Tusk subsequently said was definitively ordered by Russian special services. There have been parcel bombs delivered, fast-growing drone activity reported around European defense manufacturing facilities, and a string of suspicious incidents damaging or severing undersea cables and even a pipeline, from a publication by Politico.
Novaya Gazeta Europe calculated that in the last 3 months, at least 74 air incidents involving drones suspected to be Russian occurred in Europe. However, there are still no official confirmations of the Federation's involvement in most incidents. As a result of these provocations, nearly 24 countries have been affected. Reported by Larissa Petruk, UATV News.
What's your take on all this? Share your thoughts below. This is UATV. Stay sharp, in focus, and stay safe.